That Thursday night game could not have gone better. We have had such good results this season. I want to say better results than anybody else you could find. We made, I believe, 8 championship rounds in underdog fantasy best ball tournaments. It's not a usual championship. I mean, your first and second place team in a 12-team league. No, these are tournaments with 400,000 teams in the field. And we're in the last round. We have had amazing results. But obviously, if you're sitting here in Best Ball Mania just this week, if you're sitting here in a massive large field contest, it is primarily luck for week 17. If it's a one-game slate, you drafted the team, I want to say 6 months ago, you really are just sitting here going, oh, for the love of God. Who did I draft 6 months ago? Dalton Schultz. We snuck a couple of Dalton Schultz teams through. Give me what I need to see. Okay, so in those 8 teams we advanced, we had 3 with Dalton Schultz. Which I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but right now we are, supposed to win about $50,000 on Underdog this year. So I'm really hoping that, oh my gosh, Sunday goes well for us as well. If it does and we're sweating out a big time win on Monday night, you better believe we will be live streaming our reaction on Monday night. Could not be happier with the start that we just had for the most important fantasy football week of the season with Dalton Schultz getting us 20 points in at PPR format. What's funny is I wasn't even a Dalton Schultz fanboy coming into this season. I was actually talking about Dalton Schultz being overvalued. I have no idea how we had almost 50% of our teams in the championship round with Dalton Schultz. It could not be better. I am very, very happy. But anyway, let's go through. Let's look into some of these fantasy football questions. If you want to get in an underdog draft with us this year, we did over 700 of them on the live stream this last offseason. If you want to check out any of these player props, it's the same site, Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK, link in the live chat, link in the description. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100 with promo code FLOCK, and you'll get our 2023 rankings. I'm just so excited. But Spencer coming out with the donation. Thank you, my friend, says, Tyler Algier or Nick Chubb playing for the championship, and Chubb has not been getting it done. Now he's playing versus a strong Commanders defense. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I'm not going to fault you whatsoever if you wanted to go ahead and take Nick Chubb. Take Tyler Algier over. I'm like, let's go over to Underdog real quick, and let's look at the projections that they have. Of course, it's had to be relatively accurate, or Underdog's going to be losing a decent amount of money. And if we're looking at where they have Tyler Algier, it stuck his player prop at 77.5 rushing yards. We're going to be comparing this to Nick Chubb. We don't even have a Nick Chubb line up right now. There'll be something we have to look a little later on. Be surprised if Nick Chubb's that much higher than 77.5 total yards, if we're going to be honest. I think that they are comparable. I am going to go with the running back where we have seen the dominance since 2018, rather than the running back that has the hot hand over the past 2 weeks. I agree with you. Tyler Algier's been much better. I will also agree with you in that Tyler Algier has a better matchup. But how I personally play fantasy football, 9 times out of 10, if we're looking at a player coming from nowhere, which I'd say that is Tyler Algier, versus a bona fide stud in Nick Chubb who should be healthy, I am personally not really going to overthink it. I think we're just going to go ahead. I think we're going to take the stud. I think we're going to go through. I think we are going to be jamming in Nick Chubb, my friend. Okay. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Ben says, a full BBR, worried about Waddle with Teddy B. Should we start Kamara or even Juju over Waddle at the flex spot? I wouldn't fault you at all if you wanted to go through and play Alvin Kamara over Jalen Waddle. I love Waddle, but at the end of the day, what are we supposed to say? You got Teddy Bridgewater in. That's not going to be great. You also have a tough matchup going up against the New England Patriots. Kamara, you don't like the matchup. You don't like the offense. But he's had he has 2 games in a row now with 20-plus carries. And Alvin Kamara is one of those players that we have seen dominate over and over and over again over a large sample now. Okay. So now our next question coming out from, I believe, Williams says, should we start Evan Ingram or A.J. Dillon in a half PPR format? So I think that, yeah, Evan Ingram looks like he's the number one receiving option for Jacksonville, but at the end of the day, I'm just not willing to play that tight end in our flex spot. Let's go ahead. Let's just jam in A.J. Dillon, especially with Aaron Jones dealing with the multitude of injuries. Aiden says, need to narrow down to one. We have Hodgins, Dobbins, Knox, Gabe Davis, or DJ Chark. I mean, I know Hodgins has been pretty good over the past few weeks. Obviously, there's no target competition at all there. And yes, J.K. Dobbins doesn't have a great matchup going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, this should be a very low-scoring game between the Steelers and Baltimore Ravens. And yes, Gus Edwards is splitting this into a running back by committee. I'm still going to go ahead. We're still going to be taking J.K. Dobbins here, even in a full PPR format, which I'll admit he's not going to catch the ball. And Alex says, have PPR format. We got to start two of Chubb, Montgomery, Dillon, Rashad White, Deontay Foreman, Zach Moss. And also at tight end, are we going to go Mark Andrews or Evan Ingram, starting Kirk at receiver as well? So you all know over the past few weeks, I've been going through and saying, okay, yeah, Andrews, lower your expectations. You still got to play him over someone like Evan Ingram. We were wrong. I'm going to be the first person to admit, hell, I was 100% wrong, and we need to change our mind now. I think that we are going to go ahead and we are going to go in the direction of Evan Ingram, who looks like he's the number one receiving option in Jacksonville. And for our running backs, you definitely have to play Nick Chubb here. Between Dillon and Montgomery, this is really going to be the only other RB I'm going to consider. If Aaron Jones were to miss, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing A.J. Dillon. If Aaron Jones were to play, we're going to go ahead. We're going to play David Montgomery. Now, our Gravy says, how concerned should I be with Alvin Kamara this week? Well, it's a bad offense. He hasn't been great. The target volume's down. Taysom Hill's been vulturing some touchdowns. And on top of this, it's a tough matchup going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. So there are reasons to be concerned, but he's still getting 4 targets a game. On top of this, you are seeing a running back that's had 20 carries in back-to-back weeks. Erase Saints off his social and has been a no-show. Should I start James Cook or Murray or Bam? I mean, the thing is with Alvin Kamara, you don't really have to worry about that, at least in my opinion. We don't at this time, because if you're looking at that Saints game, when do they play? Let me pull this up. I am 99.999% sure that they're going to be playing 1 p.m. Eastern. And yep, they're playing 1 p.m. Eastern. That's the case. If Alvin Kamara plays, we play Alvin Kamara, regardless of what's going on with his social media. If Alvin Kamara were to miss, then at that point, we're going to pivot over to James Cook playing on Monday night, what should be a very high-scoring contest, the running back that's been increasing his role. Now, Joel coming out to start Brock Purdy, Daniel Jones. We're going to go Daniel Jones over Brock Purdy. Purdy's been great, but the issue is the man is not going to have a ton of passing attempts. The 49ers are 10-point favorites. They're going to be able to run the ball over and over and over again. And we also got to start two Donovan Peoples-Jones, Richie James, Kenneth Walker, and Mike Evans. We're not going to overthink it, my friend. We're going to go Walker, even if he has a tough matchup going up against the Jets. And we're going to be going Mike Evans, even if he has been disappointing as of late. Please don't overthink it. Let's just go ahead. Let's just jam them in. Okay. Now, Billy says, should we start Brock Purdy or Tom Brady? Going back to what we were discussing earlier, I mean, if you want to make an argument that Brock Purdy's going to be, a quarterback with a better real-life performance this weekend, hell, I'm not going to argue against that. But Tom Brady is going to rack up a crap ton of passing attempts at the very minimum against Carolina Panthers. You know you are going to have passing volume. You're just not going to get that same level of passing volume with Brock Purdy, even if he's a more efficient quarterback. So then we're going to go Brady against Carolina, even if you're not that excited about it. I just think they run the ball in San Fran. Now, Nab says, Goff or Lawrence? Ooh, this is going to be an interesting spot. If you're looking at our rankings, we have them in the same tier this week. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to be taking Jared Goff over Lawrence. Right now, you have the Detroit Lions, depending on the sports book that you're looking at, as either the highest scoring offense this week or the second highest scoring offense this week, only behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, right now, the Bears and Lions game has the highest over-under you're going to find. The player prop on Jared Goff's 267.5 passing yards. I think you can play Jared Goff this week. Brandon says Josh Allen versus Cincinnati or Justin Fields versus Detroit. Going back to what we're discussing, the highest over-under of any game this week will be the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. So, yep, I agree. Justin Fields is very exciting when you throw in the fact that the man's probably going to have 70 rushing yards. However, can we go through and play him over Josh Allen? Hell to the no. Even if Justin Fields looks like he's going to crush. And yeah, I have Justin Fields ranked as the quarterback 4 this week. We have him ranked extremely highly. You still need to go through. You still need to play Josh Allen. At the end of the day, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. He is also going to be in a very high-scoring game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Tori coming out says, in a full BBR league, we got to pick 2 for the flex spots between Godwin, Dobbins, Watson, Richie James, as well as Tyler Higbee. So, sounds like Christian Watson not going to play. Christian Watson did miss practice on Thursday. Richie James has expanded his role. I mean, it's an offense that you're not too excited about playing any receiver, in my opinion. Tyler Higbee, dominant week this past week, but I do think the Los Angeles Rams and Baker Mayfield take a massive step backwards, and I really don't want to be flexing a tight end. For all those reasons, we're going to go Godwin and Dobbins. Godwin and Dobbins. Let's not overthink it. And Billy says, who should we flex? Dillon, Sutton, White, or Moss? Ooh. I think that we are going to play on A.J. Dillon almost regardless. Now, of course, if you're playing A.J. Dillon, I mean, we are going to be hoping that you have no Aaron Jones or Aaron Jones will be limited like this past week. That's not necessarily a guarantee. I mean, you may be in a spot where Aaron Jones is fully healthy, and at that point, you'd have to lower your expectations down for A.J. Dillon, and I think Dillon would be comparable to a few of these other names. But assuming that there's an outside chance Aaron Jones were to be limited in any capacity whatsoever in this game, I think Dillon crushes these other guys. Now, official Nolan the Valley says, need a running back in a point per carry PPR league for the semifinals. Henry missed, so should we go Tyler Algier or James Cook? I think you definitely have to go Tyler Algier. I mean, going back to his underdog prop here. And of course, like I said, if you want to check any of these out, link in the comment section, link in the description, link in the live chat. He's at 77.5 total yards. Just rushing yards. And you know he's going to get some involvement as a pass catcher as well. It's a very good matchup going up against the Arizona Cardinals. And then also point per completion. Are we going to go Geno or Mike White at quarterback? Actually, going to go Mike White at quarterback over Geno Smith. Really like the matchup going up against the Seattle Seahawks. And you do have, the New York Jets favored in this game. Shady says, should we start Davante Adams this week? I am nervous about him. You have to lower your expectations down with Davante Adams dramatically. You cannot expect Davante Adams to be a top 5 wide receiver as he's been this season. At this point, I don't even think you can expect Davante Adams to be a wide receiver 1. So yeah, lower your expectations, but still, you got to play Davante Adams. 75% of Davante Adams is still going to make him a top 24 wide receiver in fantasy, unless you're looking at someone like Waddle. I'm assuming you're playing Adams. Mike says, should we start Waddle, Godwin, or Christian Watson? If you're looking at our rankings right now, I have Godwin and Waddle back to back. Not considering Watson here, considering the fact that he missed practice on Thursday, not interested. It will be up to you between Waddle and Godwin. We literally ranked them back-to-back this week. I'll tell you, most people probably would prefer Godwin whenever you have Waddle with Teddy B. Now, 217 Frag says, started Schultz and Lamb tonight. Hell yes. I'm worried about Aaron Jones this week. Is Tyler Algier a good pivot? Yeah, he's a fine pivot, as we just got done discussing. It's a pretty damn good matchup. And at the same time, with Tyler Algier, he's been pretty good as well. He's been very good over the past 2 weeks. Gets involved as a pass catcher. Not only does he get involved as a pass catcher, but he's been hyper efficient as a rusher. Even if the efficiency comes down a bit, if he can just maintain his level of involvement in the receiving game, he should be good. If Aaron Jones plays, we definitely go Aaron Jones over Tyler Algier. But I think he's a fine pivot, and you're in the driver's seat at this point if you start in Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb. Now, our next question coming out from Lucius says, Pollard didn't play in the championship game. Should we start Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, McKinnon, or DeAndre Swift? I think we're going to go Devonta Smith here relatively easily. Now, Smith obviously had a phenomenal performance this past week against the Dallas Cowboys. Not expecting him to repeat what he just did. I would say I don't want to say an impossibility, but it's highly unlikely that you end up getting just another 30-point bomb. But still, at the same time, Jerry Jeudy is not going to be viable when you have Courtland Sutton back in here. There's just not going to be enough of targets in a horrible, horrible offense. McKinnon, the usage with the running backs going back and forth between Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon. Swift is in a 3-man committee. I think we just play Smith. Now, Nick says, need a running back and a receiver. We have Mixon, Etienne, Walker, or McKinnon. I think our running back here is most likely going to be... Do we take Mixon? If I'm looking at my rankings, we have Mixon at 8. We have Walker at 13. Yeah. They both have tough matchups. When in doubt, we're going to go with the player playing on Monday night in the most exciting game of the season. We are going to go with Joe Mixon so we can have something to root for. And then also Adams or Hopkins. Thanks. So thank you for supporting the channel. Now that we have no Derek Carr, but we have Colt McCoy in Arizona, I will go DeAndre Hopkins over Devontae Adams. Now, Allison says, which 3 players should we start in the flex? Between Myers, Pittman, Bam Knight, Pickens, James Cook, A.J. Dillon, Lazard, or Cortland Sutton in a 10-team format. Thank you, Allison, for coming out. Not too excited about any of these options, if I'm going to be honest. I think A.J. Dillon will crush if you have no Aaron Jones. But at this point, it looks like Aaron Jones is most likely going to play. So I don't know if we can rely on that. But regardless, you will be playing A.J. Dillon as one of these options, in my opinion, with a banged-up Jones. I think we're probably going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to play Michael Pittman in a full PPR format. Not excited about it. Nick Foles obviously looked like garbage this past week. And then for that last spot, I think we can kind of go back and forth between Bam Knight and James Cook. Really going to be up to you between these two names. I know Seattle has a horrible run defense, and a lot of people want to be excited about Bam Knight. I kind of would rather go James Cook, get some excitement in that Monday night game. I think that they're very comparable running backs. I think that you have James Cook in a much better offense in what should be a very high-scoring game. And hell, he's been expanding his role. I want to root for James Cook in this game. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Cody says, PBR, we're going to go Tyler Algier or DeAndre Swift. I think we have to be realistic with ourselves. I think we're going to go Tyler Algier. And then Burrow or Justin Fields. I have them ranked back-to-back. I'm not going to fault you whatsoever. If it's a 4-point passing touchdown format, you want to go Justin Fields, who has all the rushing upside in the world and a phenomenal matchup against the Detroit Lions. But how I have it now, I actually have Joe Burrow as the guy. And real quick, we just hit 100 likes on this live stream. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the stream. I believe about 25% of y'all have, so thank you so much for everybody who's gone down there and hit that like button. I do appreciate it. And Duke says, PBR, we got to start 2 between Tyler Algier, James Cook, Dobbins, Rachaad White. We already have Leonard Fournette in the starting lineup. Flock, you're a legend, brother. Thanks. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I am not Flock, my friend. We are all a part of the Flock. I think we have to play it. Jam in Tyler Algier at this point. If I told you on the bench Tyler Algier, I think people would just probably, I don't know. They would be sending nasty threats my direction with how good Tyler Algier has been over the past 2 weeks. I think we're probably also going to go J.K. Dobbins. I mean, with Dobbins, we have to be realistic that in a full PPR format, you can't be too excited knowing that at the end of the day, he's not catching the ball, and obviously is going to put a severe cap on his ceiling, especially if Gus Edwards is stealing touches, especially if this is going to be a nasty game environment. Right now, Las Vegas sportsbooks have the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers with the lowest over-under of any game this week. So Dobbins isn't in a good spot. I don't want to try to hype up J.K. Dobbins here, but I do think that he's viable if we're going to be looking at this range. Okay, so now our next one coming out from Ronaldo says, thank you in the championship, even though the first pick we took JT, then Keenan and Andrews. Dear God. 12-team PPR format, pick a flex between Myers, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Hollywood, James Cook, Rachaad White, Tyler Algier. Okay, no, I'm assuming those are the players in our starting lineup. So right now we're starting Rachaad White, Tyler Algier, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Zay Jones. First off, congrats on making the championship game, even with Jonathan Taylor as your first-round selection. Second off, honestly, I don't think we need to overthink this too much. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to jam in Hollywood Brown now. Hollywood Brown only played 66% of the snaps this past week for missing a team meeting. Don't necessarily think that we have to worry about Hollywood not really playing this next week either. I think Hollywood Brown does get back in here. I think he learned his lesson, whatever that may mean. And then at the same time, you're getting Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy is just going to be a significantly better quarterback, hook 'em horns, than what you had with Trace McSorley. Now, our next one coming out from, I believe Cole says, with Pollard out, who do we start? The other running back spot is Dylan McKinnon, James Cook, Zach Moss, and then we also have Joshua Palmer. So we need another running back as well as a flex. So I think, honestly, almost regardless, we're going to be looking at two names here. We're going to go Dillon and McKinnon. I was about to go into some long-winded explanation about saying, okay, if you have no Aaron Jones, we play A.J. Dillon. If it's a full BBR format and Aaron Jones plays, we go McKinnon, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. If we have two spots, I think two players stand out from the rest. Just jam in Dillon and McKinnon. Now, Brian says Lockett, Gabe Davis, Lazard, Algier, Pacheco. We need two receivers, a running back, and a flex. I think our two wide receivers are most likely going to end up being Allen Lazard as well as Tyler Lockett, with the assumption that Christian Watson does not play against Minnesota. Now, if Christian Watson does surprise us and he is active against the Minnesota Vikings, then I would pivot from Allen Lazard to Gabe Davis. You should have no issue with that because Gabe's playing on Monday night. Running back, we're going to be playing Tyler Algier over Isaiah Pacheco. And then for the flex spot, we will be taking Isaiah Pacheco over Gabe Davis. And then other questions, we have Komet, Taysom, Montgomery, Pacheco, Chark, Lazard. We need a running back and a flex here. Our running back's going to be Montgomery, and then our flex will be Pacheco. And then our next question, we have, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. But thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. And Charles says, one for the flex, Kamara, Jerry Jeudy, Bam Knight. I mean, definitely lower your expectations with Alvin Kamara compared to where they've historically been, but you still got to go Kamara here. And Diego says McKinnon or Cam Akers in a full PPR format. I think you have to go Cam Akers. With Cam Akers, don't expect him to repeat what he just did, but it is a phenomenal matchup. I mean, going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, hard to find a better spot. You would wish that he would get involved a little more as a pass catcher. Obviously, the Rams aren't going to go out there and score 50 points again, but I mean, I think we can play Akers. Now, our next one coming out from Gracie says, in a point per carry and PPR league, are we going to go Kareem Hunt or Bam Knight if Aaron Jones doesn't play? We will go Bam Knight. I mean, I really don't think we have to overthink it either, just with the Cleveland Browns offense not being great and Nick Chubb so clearly being the starter. And then in a point per completion league, are we going to go Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson? We have a Week 18 championship. Will you be going live next week? To be honest with you, I have not figured out exactly what we will be doing next week. I'll be definitely making an in-depth video recapping how our season went, but I don't know what we're going to be doing from a content perspective. It's just, I don't enjoy doing Week 18 fantasy football. I personally don't enjoy it. I mean, you're going to have so many different things. Oh, is player X sitting out? Is what's happening? I don't want to deal with it. Between Daniel Jones and Deshaun Watson, I will go Daniel Jones. I mean, it is painful for me because I really did think Deshaun Watson would have been an elite level option for the fantasy football playoffs here. I mean, I was fully expecting Deshaun Watson to come in and Deshaun Watson to crush in weeks 15, 16, 17. I was flat out wrong. And of course, we need to make that adjustment. Jones has a good matchup, has some rushing upside. Now, Deshaun says flex Evan Ingram, DK Metcalf, or Christian Kirk. We're definitely going to go DK Metcalf. And then also Juju, DK, Kirk. I don't know what we're talking about here. We're going to go DK over these guys. And then at tight end, we're going to go Evan Ingram or TJ Hawkinson. We'll go Hawkinson over Evan Ingram. And Big Beard coming out says, who to flex in a 12-team PPR format? Romeo Doubs, Rashad White, Shaheed, or Isaiah Hodgins? We're going to go ahead. We're going to be taking Rashad White in a good matchup against Carolina Panthers. You'd wish Leonard Fournette wasn't involved as much as he is on third down and in obvious passing game situations. There's not too much we can say about it. However, I think you probably just have to go ahead and you just have to play Rashad White knowing he's going to get 40% of this backfield. Now, our next one coming out from Wise says, are we going to go Tyler Algier or Cam Akers? We have them ranked in the same tier. I am personally going to go ahead. We're going to take Cam Akers. It's maybe because I like Cam Akers more as a prospect coming out of Florida State, so maybe we're just biased with this. I don't know. I mean, I'm more willing to believe Akers is here to stay. And Zach says, two receivers in a flex between Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Hopkins, and Cam Akers. Our two wide receivers are going to be DeAndre Hopkins and T. Higgins. And then our flex spot, I mean, it's very close. In a full PPR format, maybe you're going to go ahead, you're going to take Devonta Smith with the target volume. In a non-PPR league, maybe you go Cam Akers with the matchup. With Smith, he was dominant last week. What I'm a little hesitant about, though, is Dallas Goedert going to expand his role? And I don't think that this team scores 40 points every week with Gardner Minshew under center. Like, that's not necessarily a guarantee. Okay, so now our next question coming out from MDT says, Chubb, Kamara, McKinnon, A.J. Dillon at running back. Receiver, we have Jefferson, Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Hopkins. Full BBR, who to start in flex? We need 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex. I mean, at running back, we're going to play Chubb and Kamara over McKinnon and Dillon. If Aaron Jones were to miss, you can play A.J. Dillon over Alvin Kamara. And at receiver, we're going to be going Jefferson and Higgins. At the flex spot, I will go DeAndre Hopkins now that we have Colt McCoy in here over Garrett Wilson, even though I really do like Garrett Wilson in a plus matchup against the Seahawks with Mike White under center. Brendan says flex Olave, Christian Watson, or J.K. Dobbins. So Christian Watson wasn't at practice today. Let me pull up the most recent report that we have with Chris Olave. I'm assuming Olave should be good to go based off the last thing that we checked. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything here. But yeah, so Olave back-to-back practices. I'm going to assume that he is playing. I'd say in a full PPR format, we'd probably go Olave. In a non-PPR format, we go Dobbins. I don't think you're going to get to play Christian Watson this week. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Jeff says, Dobbins or Bam Knight in a standard scoring league. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins, and I'm not going to overthink it too much. I don't know if I just have something against Bam Knight. I never get excited about thinking of playing Bam Knight. He's in a split backfield. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a talented running back. He has no pedigree. Like, I don't see why I'd be that excited about it. And 217 Frag says, Chargers or Giants defense this week? You know what's interesting is I would love to play both of these, but we're probably going to go with the Giants. I mean, if we're just talking momentum here, the Rams dropped 50 points last week, and Nick Foles had 3 interceptions, I'm pretty sure, in the first half. So let's go with the Giants DST here. And Renault says, we need a 6-point passing touchdown league. Minshew, Purdy, or Mike White. At this time, I'm going to plan on going Gardner Minshew, assuming, of course, that you have no Jalen Hurts. I think it's honestly a safe assumption, but if Jalen Hurts were to play, then at that point, I'm going to go Mike White over Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's good, but the issue is the 49ers don't want to throw the ball. They want to run the ball, play good defense. That's how they're going to win, and they should be able to easily do that this week. Jacob says, hey, Mason, pick 2, Hopkins, Lockett, Olave, and Mike Williams. We're going to go Hopkins and Lockett, my friend. I don't love playing Lockett here, if I'm going to be honest, though, because it is a tough matchup going up against the Jets. And on top of it, hell, he is coming off that injury. And Jack says, flex 2 in a full PPR league. We have Dylan, Rashad White, as well as Tyler Algier. We're going to go A.J. Dillon and Tyler Algier almost regardless with a multitude of injuries that Aaron Jones is dealing with. Obviously, if you're playing A.J. Dillon, you really hope Aaron Jones doesn't play, but still, he can get there regardless. Now, Brian says, sorry, messed up with the edit. Are we going to go Cole Kmet or Taysom Hill at the tight end position in a full PPR format? Full PPR format, we are going to go Cole Kmet. I actually really like the matchup this week going up against the Detroit Lions, which should be an extremely high-scoring game where we know Justin Fields just has absolutely nobody to throw the ball to. Now, Muscle March says, are we going to go Goddard versus Tyler Higbee? I think you definitely take Dallas Goedert here. I'm not going to think about this much at all, even if Higbee crushed this past week. Now, Daniel says, PBR, the starters are Fields, Barkley, Chubb, Jefferson, Waddle, Kittle, Garrett Wilson, and then Dylan. And then on the bench, if Aaron Jones misses, who should we bench for Dylan? Okay, no, Dylan's on the bench. Also, Jacksonville Jaguars defense or the New York Giants. I think we go with the Giants. I mean, the spread's fallen down between, I believe, 4 points between the Jags and Texans. I'm kind of surprised by that, but Vegas obviously knows more than we do. $400 championship on the line. Thanks for the help. Now, thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. I mean, obviously, you need to start Dylan if Aaron Jones were to miss. Here are the players I'd start over A.J. Dillon over if Jones does not play. Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Nick Chubb. If you have no Aaron Jones, I would play A.J. Dillon over any of those guys. The lowest player I probably have ranked out of that list is going to be at wide receiver and probably going to be Jalen Waddle, given the fact that we have no Tua And we have the matchup against the New England Patriots. Now, our next question coming out from Sam says, worried about Eckler / Connor in a 12-team PPR flex spot. Rachaad White, Slayton, Zach Moss, Joshua Kelly. We had Lamb and Schultz tonight. Hell yes. Opponent had Pollard and Henry. Okay, so we are absolutely crushing. Assuming that we have Eckler and Connor playing this week, we should be fine. Now, if we're going to be looking at Rachaad White, Darius Slayton, Zach Moss, Joshua Kelly, I think we just take the player that has the highest floor. I think Rachaad White probably has the highest floor out of these guys in a full PPR format. Unless, honestly, I don't even really care if Eckler misses. I think we plan on going Rachaad White. I mean, you are just crushing your league mate at this point. We need to be thinking about the highest floor possible. Nathan says start Terry McLaurin over Devontae Adams in the flex spot or A.J. Dillon if Aaron Jones come back. I would start A.J. Dillon over both players if you have no Aaron Jones. And then starting Tyler Algier and Joe Mixon at running back 1 and running back 2. You know what I'd actually probably do? Is if we have no Aaron Jones, I'd start A.J. Dillon over Tyler Algier, and then I'd still start Devontae Adams regardless. I mean, with Adams, obviously, it is very scary, and you have to dramatically lower your expectations. I'm still playing him, though. If I have Devontae Adams, I'm sorry, but he is in my starting lineup. I don't know. Will says Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, or Juwan Johnson. Okay, here we're going to go with Evan Ingram. I mean, we've been saying Mark Andrews over the past few weeks. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done with it. I mean, my hopes and dreams are crushed with Andrews. And then is Dobbs a good play if Watson's out? And then White or Brian Robinson? Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you have no Gibson, we go Brian Robinson. If it's a full PPR format and Gibson were to play, then we go Rachaad White. Non-PPR, you go Robinson regardless. I don't want to say Dobbs is a good play with no Christian Watson, but it is a phenomenal matchup going up against the Minnesota Vikings. And if you were to have no Christian Watson, then Dobbs would be a viable play. He would be an okay play. I don't want to say it's good, but it would be okay. Now, Debris coming out says, flex Ramondre Watson or Garrett Wilson in the standard league. I think we got to go Ramondre Stevenson. Assuming Ramondre plays, of course, monitor the practice reports. Right now, he's been limited in practice. I know he was down this past week dealing with the injury, but it doesn't really matter. It was a 1-week sample. Let's not panic. Let's start your studs. How many weeks in a row did the man just go out there and straight up crush it for you? Now, Alvin says in a half PBR format in a 12-team league, we have Burrow, Lamb, Judy, Mixon, Etienne, Goddard, Algier. And then the Giants defense. On the bench, we have Chark, Ayuk, Jamal, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Lazard, Buffalo's defense, McCole Hardman. We got a flex one. Thank you. No, thank you for supporting the channel, my friend. And with the bench options, I want to say that Ayuk would have been the easy option for us, assuming, of course, that you had no Deebo Samuel. Now that Deebo Samuel's playing and at the same time Brock Purdy hasn't really favored Ayuk during his tenure here, I think that we should lower our expectations down a decent amount here when it comes to Brandon Ayuk. I'm still probably going to be choosing him in the flex spot, however. I'm trying to think through this. If Deebo were to play, could we possibly talk ourselves into going Jamal? No, you're playing Ayuk regardless. Playing Ayuk. Daniel says, wide receiver 2 flex. We got to pick 2 guys between Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, Christian Watson, A.J. Dillon. I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to be playing Devonta Smith as well as Christian Kirk in a full PBR format if Aaron Jones were to play. If Aaron Jones were to miss, then we go A.J. Dillon. We're not planning on Christian Watson at this point with him missing practice on Thursday. And then also Conklin over Everett at tight end after Everett 0 targets. Full PBR. Chip, Best Friends League. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Wishing you the best of luck this week, my friend. And yeah, go Tyler Conklin over, Gerald Everett. The only reason Everett was exciting, earlier on this season was because you had to stretch games with no Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I don't really know. what the appeal is with Everett. Donald Parham's back. You can't play Everett. Don't do it. And real quick, we are 1 like away from hitting 200 likes in this live stream. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there and drop a like in the stream. It helps us out a ton. And Ramu says, full BBR Super Bowl, Fields versus Goff. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Justin Fields over Jared Goff. I mean, hell, I think the Lions win the game. I think that Jared Goff's maybe a better quarterback, but it doesn't matter. From a fantasy football standpoint, Fields is going to get you the 70 rushing yards. Need one from Najee Swift or some free agents in either Bam Knight or Chuba Hubbard. Hate the matchup, hate the game environment, hate the offense for Najee Harris. You still play Najee Harris. Need 2 from Waddle, Christian Watson, Dotson, or some free agents in Chark or Lazard. And then tied into Andrews versus Njoku. Andrews has been crappy. We still go Andrews over Njoku. And then for our 2 wide receivers, you're going to play Waddle and Christian Watson if Watson does play. If Watson doesn't play, I'm actually going to pivot way the hell over to Allen Lazard. So we're going to go Waddle and then whoever the top dog at wide receiver is for the Green Bay Packers. Now, Andy says non-PBR in a super flex league, we need 1 for the flex. Our choices are Latavius, London, Moss, Debo. If Debo plays, we go with them, but I doubt that happens. We probably end up having to go Zach Moss in that non-PBR format. Or on the waiver wire, we have Sutton, Bam Knight / Michael Carter, Gus, Dobbs, Hodgins playing for the championship. Okay, so non-PBR format, I think we would be fine pivoting over to Zach Moss. If it was a full PBR league, maybe we could go with one of these wide receivers off the waiver wire. Maybe we could be excited about that, but there's just not much to be looking at. Zach Moss going to get you 50, 60 rushing yards. In a non-PBR format, he'll have a shot at a touchdown, which is all you're kind of asking for. And now our next one coming out from, I believe, Tyler says start 2 between David Montgomery, Leonard Fournette, or Garrett Wilson. You definitely have to play Garrett Wilson with Mike White back in, as well as a great matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. Really going to come down to either Leonard Fournette or David Montgomery. If it is a full PBR format, given the usage that we have from Montgomery as a pass catcher, we will go David Montgomery. However, if it is a non-PPR league, I think that we can probably go ahead and instead take David Montgomery because Tampa doesn't get to the red zone very often. And when they do get to the red zone, they are just dropping back to pass every single down. Jeff says Gardner Minshew or Daniel Jones. Yeah, I know we're hoping for Jalen Hurts. Yeah, definitely hoping for Jalen Hurts. We're going to go with the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles almost regardless. A great offensive line, great receivers, great tight end. Go either Minshew or Hurts. Tim says a full BBR with no Christian Watson in the flex. Who should we play between Deontay Johnson, J.K. Dobbins, or Tyler Algier? At this point, I think we probably have to tell everyone Tyler Algier. To look at the matchup you have going up against Arizona, look at the fact that you are getting a few targets out of the backfield. Look at the fact that you've crushed over the past 2 weeks. Look at the fact that the underdog fantasy line on you is very aggressive. They have them at 77.5 total yards. We're going to have to go ahead. We're going to be taking Tyler Algier here. Now, our next one coming out from, I believe, TJ says, pick 2, Kirk, Dobbs, Dotson, Pittman, Rashad White, and Dawson Knox. It's a PPR format. We're going to go ahead. We're going to be taking Michael Pittman and Christian Kirk in that full PPR league. Not too excited about either guy. I mean, the issue is, Pittman is just in the worst offense you could ever imagine. And Kirk, sometimes the third receiving option behind Evan Ingram and Zay Jones in his offense. So not too excited about it, but we will be going with those guys. Julia says Andrews or Goddard if Lamar Jackson is out. We are going to go ahead. We are going to be taking Dallas Goedert over Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson will be out. For the love of God, do not expect Lamar Jackson to play this week. Casey says, sorry to spam you, but let's see those big dog rosters. Okay, so I'll pull up our big dog roster. Right now I'm winning 20,000 in the big dog 2. I don't know if this is going to keep up, but keep in mind we had a very good start with Schultz and Lamb. So the big dog 2 will show this one. We have another big dog roster. I think we have, a total of 3 big dog teams, but we'll show the one that's winning 20,000 right now. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the screen, so we'll just read the roster off. We have Dak at quarterback, had a fine game, but we have Josh Allen, so it could possibly get better. Running back, we have Najee, Breece freaking Hall, of course, Cam Akers, Tyler Algier, Brian Robinson. So we don't have Breece Hall. We're rolling with Najee Harris, Cam Akers, Tyler Algier, Brian Robinson. Receiver, we have Lamb, Waddle, Lazard, Garrett Wilson, McCole Hardman, Robbie Anderson, David Bell, Curtis Samuel, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Tight end, we have Dalton Schultz and TJ Hawkinson. So we're hoping we can get there. What's really nice is nobody else, and I repeat, nobody else had the 20-point game from Dalton Schultz. That's actually a smaller field contest. It's going to be much easier to win the 20,000 there than it would be in a larger field contest like Best Ball Mania. And then, yeah, we can go and look somewhere else. But, I mean, we can look at those other ones later on. But Stan's saying we missed this question. I'm sorry, my friend. Let me pull this up. It says, a full BBR, who should we start at running back between Swift, Tyler Algier, Cam Akers, or Rachaad White? I'm very sorry for missing this, my friend. I think it's definitely going to be down between Tyler Algier or Cam Akers. I think we are going to probably end up going with Cam Akers in a phenomenal matchup going up against the Los Angeles Chargers here. I mean, hard not to just say, okay, well, they're coming off a 50-point performance. They're playing a defense that struggles to stop the run. Akers is a pretty damn good player. At least he was before the torn Achilles. And it looks like he's fully over this torn Achilles at this point. So we are going to go probably with Cam Akers. And Unpopular Bears says, Sup Mason, thanks for helping me get through the shift. Pick 2 to start this week in a PPR format. We got Chubb, Fournette, Mike Williams, and Mike Evans. And then also we're going to go Rodgers or Lawrence. I'm actually probably going to go Aaron Rodgers over Trevor Lawrence this week, my friend. I mean, Lawrence going up against a Houston Texans team that's just not going to be able to score the ball. Like, I don't necessarily see how Trevor Lawrence gets there. Whereas if we're going to be looking at Aaron Rodgers, should actually maybe, I don't want to guarantee this, but have a chance at being a shootout game between the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers. I like that game environment for Rodgers. And then also, I think we probably end up having to go Chubb and Leonard Fournette, right? Mike Williams operating as the field stretching wide receiver. Evans has been very bad. Even if Chubb's disappointed, I'd still rather have Chubb over Evans. Okay. Now, Greg coming out says, very upset. We started the season 4-5, finished 10-5 for the number 1 seed in a 2-quarterback, 10-team league. 6-team single week elimination playoff. Had the bye last week. Our 2 quarterbacks were Hurts and... Oh, my. I'm so sorry, my man. That sucks. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are losing. Jalen Hurts losing to Tagovailoa. And honestly, usually I don't really feel for him. Because in a 1-quarterback format, hell, we can say, hit the waiver wire, toughen up, buttercup, you're going to be just fine. But in a 2-quarterback league, for your championship game to be missing both Jalen Hurts and Tua, I don't know if it gets much worse than that. Throw on Tony Pollard with that. I am so sorry to hear that, my friend. Of course, thank you for being a long-time member of the flock. I do really appreciate you, but be honest with you. If you're in a 2-quarterback league and you had Hurts and Tua, I don't think you have a shot at this point. Now, Lane Dog coming out. Always happy to have you out. Speaking of long-time member of the flocks, says, playing for a title again this year. I thought I knew it all after 30 years of playing. Then I found the flock. Big props, as always, to you, Mason, and appreciation for this channel and its community. Let's go. Thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock for so damn long. And I can't imagine how my brain will be about fantasy football when we're 30 years into playing. I mean, as you can tell, I am not even 30 years old yet, even though my hairline would say otherwise, but that's just the stress of live streaming every day. So congrats, my friend. Wishing you the best of luck. And thank you so much for being a member of the flock again. Now, Dakota says Burrow or Fields, and then Dotson or Amari. We're going to go Amari over Dotson, even if Deshaun Watson's been so much worse than we thought he was going to be. And we are going to go Burrow over Fields, even if Fields is in the best spot imaginable. The game with the highest over-under, a quarterback that has a crap ton of rushing yards. How the hell am I supposed to bench Joe Burrow? Especially in a Monday night game that's going to be the most exciting game of the season. Maybe Justin Fields has a projection where he gets you half a point more, 1 point more. We have these guys ranked back-to-back in our rankings this week. In reality, I think we just need to go through. I think we need to just take the exciting player. Take the guy going on Monday night. Now, Carter says, have BBR format. We need a flex and tight end help. We're going to go Andrews or Higbee. Oh, dear God. I've thrown in the towel. We moved Mark Andrews down our rankings at tight ends. We have Mark Andrews now ranked as the tight end 6. I do have him right ahead of Tyler Higbee, though. Flex options, Curtis Samuel, Jeff Wilson Jr., John Dotson. Wentz targeted Samuel more when he played. It was a very small sample. I don't think we overthink it. And then Higbee at the flex. And love you. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. Honestly, I hate playing tight ends at the flex spot, but you may be good to go to play Tyler Higbee here. Like, your flex options are so gross. I know Curtis Samuel had a very hot start to this season. And yes, that was with Carson Wentz, and maybe we can try to say 1 + 1 = 2 if Carson Wentz, had Curtis Samuel crushing at the beginning of the season, he'll have him crushing at this point. We want to say that, but in reality, you just have no freaking idea. I think we probably go ahead and we just take Higbee. Now, Nathan coming out. Happy to see you, my man, as always. Let me make you a moderator on the channel. How the hell are you not a moderator yet? We need to make Link Dog a moderator as well. And of course, if you're a moderator, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. Just if you see someone spamming the chat over and over and over again, you can hit put user in timeout to clean it up. But says, Mason, my man, would you like your thoughts on my chances in a non-PPR double flex league? We have Allen, who's pretty damn good at quarterback. Keenan Allen, Godwin, Zeke, Mixon. Oh, it would have been an ugly day for Ezekiel Elliott if he didn't score the touchdown, which honestly, with no Tony Pollard here, I was expecting a massive day from Ezekiel Elliott, but it is what it is. Mixon, Gabe Davis, Zach Moss, Hawkinson versus Mahomes, Evans, Lazard, Connor, Najee, Pacheco, Walker, Waller. Thanks for everything. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Let's go position by position. Josh Allen versus Mahomes. They're the same. Call it a wash. Neutral there. If we're looking at our wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Godwin versus their wide receivers in Mike Evans and Allen Lazard, give me our wide receivers. If we're looking at our running backs between Zeke and Mixon versus their running backs of Connor and Najee, I think Zeke had a better performance than Najee Harris will. I think Mixon and Connor are comparable. I think it's close to being a wash. Call the running backs a wash. So quarterbacks, running backs, wash. You're winning at receiver. Now, for the flex spot, we're rolling with Gabe Davis and Zach Moss. Keep in mind, it's a non-PPR format. They're rolling with Isaiah Pacheco, Kenneth Walker. They have the edge at the flex spot, in my opinion. Tight end, we have Hawkinson versus their Waller. We have edge at tight end. So I like your shot. I think that we have the better group at wide receiver, tight end. They have the better group at the flex. So I like it. I mean, just speaking of that edge that you have at tight end, Hawkinson has been crushing it. And I mean, if you're going to go ahead and look at Darren Waller right now, like how the hell could we expect Darren Waller to be anything in an offense that just won't be able to move the ball down the field against the best defense in the NFL? Now, Raiden coming out says, pick a tight end between Waller, Conklin, Fant, Hayden Hurst, etc. Okay, so like I was just saying, Darren Waller's probably going to struggle a ton. We still go Waller here. We have him ranked at the very bottom end of our tight end ones, though. Slick Rick says, Dotson or Amari in happy BR format. We're the underdog. We're going to go Amari Cooper, even if Deshaun Watson hasn't been good. I mean, I think Amari's probably the most disappointing wide receiver for the fantasy football playoffs. If we're just taking into account that for whatever reason, I convinced myself that Deshaun Watson was going to come in and Deshaun Watson was going to crush. Kind of is what it is. And now Andrew says, been watching all year and we are in the championship game. Hell yes, my man. Thank you. Geno or Mike White? We're going to go Mike White over Geno Smith, obviously playing in the same game. I like Mike White a lot more against that Seattle defense than Geno Smith against the Jets. Also Njoku or Tyler Higbee. I think at this point, we probably have to go ahead. We probably have to take Tyler Higbee coming off a monstrous game, going back right back to what we were saying previously. I mean, Deshaun Watson just not as good as we thought he would be. Now, Cyanide coming out and says, we're hurting. We need a receiver, wide receiver 2, and a flex. Goff's our quarterback with St. Brown. We have Kirk, Christian Watson, London, Dotson, Chark, Hollywood, Dortch. And then Juju on Saturday's waiver. If you can pick up Juju, we're probably going to go Juju Smith-Schuster and Christian Kirk. If you can't get Juju, we're going to play on Kirk and Hollywood Brown because Christian Watson should miss. Don't play Dotson. Don't play Chark. Don't play London. It's going to be Kirk, Hollywood, unless we can get Juju, and it'll be Kirk and Juju. Now, CBZ says, full BBR, 12-team league, start 3, Judy, Kamara, Sanders, Algier, and Devontae Adams. I think we're going to have to go through and play Alvin Kamara, Devontae Adams, even if it's gross, even if we lower expectations compared to where they've historically been. Obviously, they're not going to be as good as what we saw at the beginning of the season or as good as what we saw at any year over the past 5 seasons. Between Jerry, Judy, Miles Sanders, Tyler Algier, I think we can kind of go back and forth here. If you're going to be looking at my running back rankings, I mean, we have Miles Sanders and Tyler Algier literally ranked back-to-back. I have them ranked at running back 19 and 20. I don't think you can make a wrong decision between the two. Just please don't be starting Jerry Judy. Mike says, Waddle or Chubb at the flex in a half PPR format. Half PPR league, if we have no Tua, and also it's a tough matchup for both guys, I'm going to go Nick Chubb over Jalen Waddle, even though you know I definitely have more Waddle than Nick Chubb. Okay. Now, I think that should probably be about it for this live stream. I'm going to go through and party it up, knowing how many teams that we had Dalton Schultz with somehow, some way, even if I wasn't a big Dalton Schultz fan coming into the season. Hell, he's getting it there for us. Oh, dear God. It's gonna be a good year, ladies and gentlemen. It is gonna be a good year. But thank you, of course, everybody. If you have not done so already, drop a like on this bad boy. If you want to check out any of these player props, link in the live chat, link in the description, promo code FLOCK. I'll match your first deposit $1 for $1, 200 available in damn near every state. Last one, 217 Frag says, what's the shot at winning my first title full PPR? We have Goff, Hurts, Stevenson, Jones, Chase, Lamb, Schultz, Dalvin, Giants defense. He has Jamal, Zeke, Tyreek, Amari, and Olave or Sutton. Okay, don't know exactly what the teams are. Stevenson, Aaron Jones versus his Jamal, Zeke. You're crushing him. You're Goff versus, I don't know who he has at quarterback. Goff should be a good option at quarterback this week. You're chasing Lamb versus Amari and Olave. Your odds are very high. I would call them 75, 80% chance taking it in. So, I mean, which is super good if you're just going to look at how much just volatility there is in fantasy football. But Jamal says, based on the likes, only 5% of us made the finals. I don't exactly know what that means, but anyway, thank you for coming out, my friend. Thank you for being here for a long time. I think that's all I got for you. Thank you again. Hope you have a great night, and hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow night.